Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pop Swap with myself and Carlos. Hi,
Good
Carlos.
afternoon. How are we?
We're good.
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
And you're Cockney.
Yeah. Afternoon.
All right, everybody. We're Cockney today for this episode.
No, we're not. Let's scrap that very quickly.
Okay. Yes. So we have hopefully some new lovely selections for you this week again, and we've been checking out a few things.
Indeed.
Now, I kind of made the mistake this week, to be honest with you, of throwing all my eggs into one basket, and I was hoping that some films that I watched the other night, I chose a couple of movies, some German films that I like the sound of. I saw the trailers and they look very interesting. But
where did you watch these movies?
I streamed them through an independent cinema in America somewhere. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a good service. It was like I think they call it the Friday Cinema, spelled Frida or something.
Okay.
But yeah, it was cool. It was basically like an independent cinema chain.
Yeah.
And they were showing like a season of German films at the moment as part of that. And you could just like buy a title for $8 or something. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was hoping they would be as strong as the trailers made them out to be, but unfortunately it didn't really go that way, and they were just average, and I don't really feel like chatting about them in the podcast here. And I also feel like it's a bit mean to kind of rip apart an independent film.
Yeah.
Because a lot of effort goes into making those things, and I don't really want to be
putting yourself out there creatively. You don't have a big studio backing you. You're doing your best. That's what we say to those people. But I'll tell you something, Dean.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
You know who we can rip the piss out of?
Who's that?
Big studio movies.
We certainly can, and I think just as a little bit of a teaser for you guys, I think in a bit, when we get round to Carlos's selection, he may be going full on attack mode at a big studio production at the moment.
But anyway, back to you, dude. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, that's true. And so like I say, bit mean for me to have a go at those, and they weren't terrible by any means. They just didn't impress me enough to be worth chatting about this episode.
I guess they didn't set you on fire.
They didn't, no. But so I kind of thought back, I've still got to chat about something, and there was a show that I watched a good few weeks back, which was called Soulmates, which is an anthology series that was originally aired on AMC, I think, and made by showrunners Will Bridges, who won an Emmy for his writing of the USS Callister episode of Black Mirror.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know that one.
And I think he may have written on a few other Black Mirror episodes as well.
Cool.
And actor-writer Brett Goldstein, who starred in the Ricky Gervais sitcom Derek, and I think he wrote on the Catherine Tate show as well. I'm not too familiar with him, but they're the two showrunners of this. The first episode stars Sarah Snook, whose face was familiar to me, and I later discovered she was from the movie Predestination.
Oh, yes.
Which is quite an enjoyable time travel film. And Kingsley Ben-Adir, who really impressed me recently enough in a movie called One Night in Miami, where he plays Malcolm X, and he was brilliant in that. First time I'd seen him in anything. I think he's a British actor.
I've never seen that.
And it's a decent little film, and he was very good in that. And they both give really solid performances in this. In the first episode, they play like a married couple who sort of on the surface, it appears like they're in quite a stable marriage together. And then unfortunately for them and all the other characters in the anthology, they happen to live in a not too distant future where science has unlocked what's kind of referred to as the soul gene, which, if you want to be very cynical, sounds like a bit of nonsense, really, doesn't it? But it does make for quite a fun concept and kind of like a reason for them to explore the idea of relationships with the characters. Now, I know what a few of you might be thinking listening to some of this, especially if you've been checking Netflix lately. And my reaction to what I saw on Netflix was probably reversed from a lot of people who may not have seen Soulmates beforehand. But there's a show that's trending at the moment, I think called The One on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched the trailer for that and I kind of just rolled my eyes because it just looked like a very cheesy version
of
what I'd already seen. Yeah,
right.
The same concept that I'd kind of already seen there.
And where is Soulmates available for viewing, Dean?
Well, I'll take a big guess, Carlos.
Is it on Amazon Prime by any chance?
It is, unfortunately, on Amazon Prime. Oh, we're cursed. We're cursed to forever make choices through that platform. Yeah, sorry to let you down, but it is. But yeah, Jeff, I'm sure Jeff's really pleased with this podcast series so far.
Yeah. Look, Jeff, you've got a lot of good stuff on your streaming platform, and it pains me that you do, but look, this is the world that we live in now.
Yeah, that's true. So where was I? Sorry, yeah. So in this...
How was Soulmates?
Soulmates, yeah, back to Soulmates. So in that story about that couple, and then all the other episodes, all the characters kind of have to tackle with that idea that you can pay to have your DNA basically analysed by this specialist company, and you will be given a match to the one other person on Earth who's your ideal soulmate and partner in the universe, which kind of, as utopian as it sounds, causes a lot of interesting mess for people who find themselves in existing relationships, or how single people might approach their love lives, knowing that they kind of live in a world where the ideal person is out there for them. So kind of these ideas of like, well, why waste your time shopping around when you know the perfect match is already there, sort of thing. And I don't know, it's good. They kind of cover a good range of stories and themes and explore those ideas in the show. And the casts are all pretty solid throughout. You've got, in another episode, you've got Bill Skarsgård and Nathan Stewart Garrett, who they both really stand out in quite a fun, sort of slightly goofy episode that's about a holiday romance and grifting set in Mexico. That's a good one.
So it is a little bit like Black Mirror concept, you know?
It is, yeah. It's an anthology series, yeah. So you've got that overall theme of the idea of the Soulmates company, it being a thing in the world, and then you just explore different characters' experiences based on that. And it doesn't really... I thought it was going to do the Black Mirror thing of like hinting that they're all kind of, you know, in this one big universe and the stories intertwined somehow occasionally, or there's little Easter eggs, but it didn't seem to do that too much. They did all seem like pretty much standalone. Yeah. Like the characters didn't overlap from one into the other. But yeah, that was fun. The rest of the cast were all great as well. You had, what was in another one? You had Breaking Bad star, what was she called? Betsy Brandt, I think.
Yeah, the wife from Breaking Bad, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. She kind of steals the show, to be honest with you, as a woman in one episode.
Skylar.
Not Skylar, no. It wasn't Skylar, was it? Skylar was Walter's wife.
The
brother's wife.
Yes, all right, okay.
Yes, sorry. I was a big fan of that show. I don't know why I can't remember the characters' names anymore. But yeah, she's really great. She plays a character who's like suffering from, she sort of had a string of abusive relationships in the past, and then she meets her match and she discovers some things about herself and her own kind of strength of personality in quite a twisted, fun way. And then other episodes explore like a range of themes. You've got religious cults and polygamy and sexual harassment covered in a few other episodes as well.
So all the juicy stuff then. Yeah,
it goes through quite a few interesting ideas. But I don't know, I did kind of wish, similar to Black Mirror, I guess, that they had a few more episodes by the time the season was finished.
How many episodes per season is it?
I don't know. I think there might have been 5 possibly.
Right.
Which, I don't know about you, but I know it's hard maybe to be like as prolific as someone like Rod Sterling with Twilight Zone and sort of like churn out episode after episode. But for me, a lot of these like modern anthology shows that you have, I'd kind of happily wait for a longer production schedule so you could end up with a few more episodes at the end of a season. Yeah,
even
with Black Mirror, as much as I love it. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I was gonna just kind of agree with you saying that, like, I enjoy the concept so much of shows like that I want to explore them that little bit more, rather than just the one or two perspectives we might get from one or two characters, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get you. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I understand that it's like maybe a big ask for some, especially, I mean, sure, when Charlie Brooker started Black Mirror, like a lot of it was just on his back and before other kind of writers. I know you did get some other writers. I think a few of the writers from Peep Show had involvement in the first season and stuff as well. But I know he kind of built that team over time as seasons progressed, so we had more writers on board. But yeah, I get that it's like a big ask for somebody to just be expected to just churn out that much themselves. So it is a challenge. And it's probably more challenging, I imagine, to write an anthology series than it is to write an ongoing series in a way, because you've got to have fresh ideas out the can every single time. Which I'm sure can kind of wear a bit thin when you're trying to think of a whole season's worth of television, I guess.
Of course. Did you have a favourite particular episode, though?
I'd say one of the standouts for me was that one that I just mentioned with the Breaking Bad star in. That was a really good one. Just about the way she kind of... I can't reveal too much about that one because it will spoil it for people.
Right, okay.
There's a little bit of a twist in the tail with that one. But yeah, I mean, they all stood out, to be honest with you. They're all pretty strong in their own way. I didn't kind of sit through one and think like, oh, that was kind of a waste of time.
Yeah.
Which impressed me. I guess if you're kind of like me, you're missing a bit of Black Mirror during the lockdown season, then I don't know, did a decent job of filling that hole for me.
Cool.
It's kind of worth checking out if you're into that kind of thing.
Do we know if there's any more Black Mirror on the way?
I'm not 100%, you know. I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I haven't heard any rumblings about that show in quite a while now.
Yeah, I'm the same. I know that Charlie Brooker did. I mean, normally he'd do like his... I mean, obviously he had a lot of involvement in his Wipe series and all that kind of stuff before Black Mirror came along. But then he used to do like his yearly review kind of thing for the BBC. He did what I thought was a stronger version of... I can't remember what he called it. He called it, instead of Screen Wipe or something, it was called something to do with like sanitary wipe or something. Like it was like a COVID sort of themed one halfway through that year. But then at the end of the year, he'd also been working on with one of the Black Mirror writers I can't remember what it was called now, but he did the version of that basically for Netflix exclusively. Okay. And that got ripped to pieces critically.
Right.
Like absolutely slated. And I do know a lot of people that liked his work that were pretty mean about that. It wasn't too bad. It certainly wasn't on a par with the stuff I was used to seeing him produce with the BBC.
To be honest, it tends to happen where a creator will set a bar so incredibly high that if they don't hit that bar with their next project, then it gets slated rather than proportionately kind of reviewed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with him as well, because he is so brilliant and so consistently funny, like when he does his when he's mainly doing his comedy work, outside of like the stuff that he's done on Black Mirror, because there's such consistency in the level of the quality of that and the humour of that show that he did for Netflix was more, it was leaning a bit more towards an American audience.
Yeah. And
I think there was a compromise there between the type of things that maybe he would get away with doing when he was doing his stuff on the BBC. And I don't know, it kind of felt like it sort of softened the edges on him a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't think it was terrible anyway. But yeah, I don't know about Black Mirror, sorry. I'm not 100%. But yes, well worth a watch for anybody who's missing that type of stuff and would like to watch a nice little anthology series there.
Fantastic. Subscribe to Amazon Prime.
Yeah. We really need
we might as well go all in now. You know, maybe they'll give us some money at the end of the day.
Desperately plea for sponsorship.
So, this week was there was quite a release this week, shall we say, and it was a different streaming service, one that isn't available over on this side of the pond yet, on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. I'm sure anyone with social media knows what I'm going to say next, but I watched the Snyder cut of Justice League on Thursday night.
Okay.
And long story short, I did not think it was very good.
Okay, now for the long story.
Contrary to popular belief, which I'm actually gobsmacked, dumbfounded at the response to this film. But I can imagine why. And I think it's like what we were saying earlier. Because there was such a kind of mixed reaction to his first DC film, like Man of Steel, which some people really love, some people kind of dislike, some people are very in the middle about it. I'm kind of in the middle about it. I don't think it's terrible. I think there's a lot of that movie that I enjoy. But, you know, the last kind of, he always falls down on the last hurdle for me.
100%. That's my issue with that as well. I feel exactly the same as what you've just said there with that movie. I really enjoyed it until like your third act when things are just getting obliterated for the sake of explosions going off.
Explosions. And man, this is totally rad. This is cool, man. Slow motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Batman vs. Superman I thought was just a complete mess. Even his Snyder cut of that, the Ultimate Edition, did add a bit more kind of sense to the whole Lex Luthor plot, and you know how they then end up working together or whatever, you know, resolving their little feud, even if it all feels a bit convenient. Mm-hmm. But his Justice League it's just full Zack Snyder, really self-indulgent. Like, he's really indulging all of the things that I dislike about his films and dialing it up to 12. Not even 11, Dean. He dials everything up to 12. So I'm talking like religious metaphor, allegory, visuals with, I don't know, like level 5,000 slow motion. It's crazy, Dean. Like, this man needs to just chill.
Is this film all, in fact, one shot?
No.
One slow motion shot for 3 hours?
Oh, yes, it's one slow motion shot for 3 hours. Yeah. But I want to preface this. I really don't want this to be an entire Zack attack, because I do feel for the guy, and I feel for what he went through. Obviously, he went through personal tragedy. If anyone doesn't know, he went through personal tragedy the first time this film was released in theaters. He had to leave the production due to his daughter tragically taking her own life, which you wouldn't wish on any person. But Warner Brothers went ahead and still released a version of his film that was redone by Joss Whedon, who's also been a very controversial figure lately. But Joss Whedon kind of butchered the movie and then, you know, added his own tone to it, where you have Zack Snyder, who wants to take all of these things super, super seriously, which kind of defeats the purpose of these films for me. But anyway, I'll save that for a little bit later. But Joss Whedon came in and, you know, added a lighter tone to it, which on its own could have been a good movie. And Zack Snyder's version on its own could have been a good movie as well. We'll get to that in a moment. But they were just a mishmash of different, like, the movie didn't know what it wanted to be. And that was
very different personalities, those two, aren't they?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that movie was not good. And of course, the online campaign to release the Snyder Cut kicked off. And here we are, like 4 years later, and we have the Snyder Cut. Now, Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it is called, I had to watch it on Now TV, so I got the 7-day free trial on Now TV, because we don't have HBO Max here. So I got that, and I sat down to watch it. And I knew going in that the thing is 4 hours long. But I figured, right, the original one I saw was 2 hours. there's an extra 2 hours of content here that I didn't see, that I would like to see. And apparently there were 40 minutes of footage from the original film that were still used in this version. So it's like, I was excited to see something at least new, you know? Mm-hmm. But my expectations are tempered because I'm not the biggest fan of his films. And especially his DC movies have kind of more so been bad in my opinion. But anyway, I went in kind of excited to see it, you know, like I'm a Batman nerd. I like superheroes. Of course I'm going to want to watch it and want it to be good. Mm-hmm. But look, it's not good. It's really not good. And it's overly long. It did not need to be 4 hours. I think I got 45 minutes into the film and I knew nothing new. Everything I knew about the original film was what I was seeing on screen in the first 45 minutes. It was just slow motion, serious, dark, brooding, trying way too hard to be profound. It just found it very, very, very pretentious. And the one scene I keep remembering is the introduction of the Flash, who's presented as he's supposed to be, as a light-hearted kind of comedic, you know, comic relief character. And he's quite good in the film as well. Like, whenever he shows up, I quite enjoy watching him, played by Ezra Miller. But his introduction had me crawling on the floor laughing. And when you're laughing at that, but you can really tell you're not supposed to laugh at it, that's when you know, all right, something's a bit wrong here. It's kind of laughably pretentious. Mm-hmm. So you see him, and I don't dislike using slow motion on the Flash because his powers are running really fast and it's cool visuals. But the music choices, the dialogue, it's cringy, it's cheesy, it's everything that would be in a comic, but is fine in a comic that has kind of charm and, you know, an innocent playfulness about it. But if you complement that with Zack Snyder wanting these, you know, these characters to be like gods or something, you know, the way he portrays them, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't mix for me. It's not good. And what else? Like right, I did mention the music choices. So probably at least 5 times in the first 2 hours, there's, you know, introducing all the different characters, and there's a music choice, and 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work. And there was at least 5 moments in the first 2 hours of the film that the music did not work at all, whatsoever. Complete shift in tone, or like, I know what you're trying to go for here, but it's not serious, dude.
Is it that annoying use of music that and this really bugs me? Not only just the poor music choice in something, but when someone edits in a track in a scene and it's a film or a TV show or something, well, I get really bugged with like an impatience about it, that it doesn't even allow the music to play out to accompany the scene and be part of the scene for long enough that it fits the rhythm of what's playing out. It's like somebody like I felt like this with the soundtrack to Suicide Squad, which just drove me insane, because that's like being in a party where somebody's in the kitchen and they've got their finger on the skip track option.
Yep.
Like, I'm probably going to be old school now on a CD player or whatever, on Spotify on a playlist. And they just hear like, oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. Have you guys heard this one? Oh, I can't wait to listen to this one. Oh, what about it? And they play like 20 seconds of a song and you're just like, just please stop and play the song. I want to hear the music, please.
Yeah.
And that's how that film's edited with its song choices, and it drives me insane. Is it?
Yeah. It's exactly
similar to that.
It's exactly like that, and the music doesn't fit the tone. Actually, he's trying to set a tone that just doesn't work, because it's too ridiculous, you know. So especially, like, I just keep remember the Flash scene. It's so funny. If it ever pops up on YouTube, watch it. It's just hilarious. So he has to go out and save some woman from a car crash or something. He's going to a job interview and he's kind of charismatic, and you're like, look at him, he's going for a job interview. You kind of invested in it a little bit. see where this is going. And then he witnesses possibly a car crash happening outside. So he goes, and then it all turns slow motion and rain and just all this epic stuff. Like, I don't know if you've seen these kind of internet memes, or not memes, but like the compilations of all these moments that require Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On.
No, I've not seen that.
To create this like epic feel. His choice of music is kind of like that, so it makes you laugh, you know? Because he's bursting through the rain in slow motion, gonna save this woman, and looking like Jesus or something. And it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. I'm baffled at the good reviews for this film. But as well, the story itself is pretty much the same as the one we got in the theatrical cut. Now, we've been promised this much deeper, expanded, like, mythology, Lord of the Rings-esque thing with the DC universe, which I'm all up for. Like, I enjoy the character of Darkseid, and, from the books like Darkseid War and all this fourth world mythology from Jack Kirby with the new gods and New Genesis and Apocalypse and all this kind of cool mythology, fantasy filmmaking. But he just doesn't know how to do that, I think. The dialogue is full of exposition. It's just the 4 hours are the characters explaining shit to me. And characters don't talk to each other like that. It's just cheesy and expository. It's just all word vomit. Like, he needs these mother boxes to come destroy everything. If we don't get these mother boxes, he's going to take over the world. And
mother boxes. There's mother boxes in this film. All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So he needs to collect, just like, Thanos needs the Infinity Stones. He needs to collect 3 mother boxes and connect them to form a unity so he can then turn the world into his own, I don't know, all that shit. But there's a way to do those kind of cheesy stories in a much more compelling way if you have better dialogue and better characters. Okay. The good stuff. We do get a bit of expansion on some of the characters, a little bit. I don't think it's done exceptionally well, but it's definitely better than the original, than the theatrical cut. So like Cyborg, he's an actual person, ironically. The Flash as well is completely different, not in his sense of humor, but at least in his characterization than the original, and I liked that. But honestly, like, Ben Affleck as Batman is still just as flat. Henry Cavill is just as flat as Superman in this film. There's no personality to any of them. Even Wonder Woman, who I really enjoy her solo film, is just there. She's just doing stuff. And I found myself completely detached from what it is they had to do. Jason Momoa's Aquaman is kind of cool. I do like him, even though I don't like his film. But him as that character, he's quite good. And I just wish they had better stories for these characters and better writing, especially.
But it strikes me that Zack Snyder as a director, that like actors to him this is just an assumption I'm making, but might come across more as maybe the Hitchcock approach, but Hitchcock had an amazing balance that he could actually the actors still committed enough to give great performances in his films. But I just mean in the sense of like, the actors are kind of props in a way, or like puppets to just be in the scene, and like the technical execution of the scene is the primary goal of that filmmaker, and the acting and the performances, well, that's the actor's work, and leave them to it. And it doesn't really coax amazing performances out of people. Like you mentioned there, like the difference between her starring in Wonder Woman and starring in that, and I'm sure that's down to the director involved, just not having commitment or involvement in that side of the process as much. Like, it doesn't matter to them quite as much.
Absolutely. And I think the issue with this film, and I think where all the good reviews are coming from, are just inherently comparing it to the theatrical cut, which I think is unfair to both Zack Snyder himself, to this movie, and to Joss Whedon, actually, because Joss Whedon had a tough job there as well,
I imagine.
To finish a film that was 75% done. Here, you do this, you release it, add your own spin to it, whatever. And he was given 6 weeks to do it. That's a difficult job. Of course the film wasn't going to be great. I'm sure Joss Whedon himself knows it's not great. But I think that's such a negative reaction to that, and everything that Zack Snyder went through is probably making people look at this all rosy, doughy-eyed, like, oh my God, he finally got to do what he wanted to do, and it's good. Just because it's more cohesive. And I don't think it being better than the original or being more cohesive inherently makes this a good film, because it's really not. Right. It's just, it's a chore to get through. It's 4 hours of exposition and slow motion and trying way too hard to be profound, basically. That is this.
Well, that hits the nail on the head with my personal view on the movies of Zack Snyder, like his career in general, is that that desperation to prove and to me it's like there's a quality about his stuff, there's a tone to it that for me is like reminiscent of like a moody emo teenager, like
100%.
Locked in his room, who really wants to prove to the world how gritty and serious and deep he is, and he wants to do something that's going to be like, it's going to, I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but that quality, like in the sense of the word, that there's an immaturity to it, in the sense that it so desperately wants to be taken as something serious and something worthwhile, that there's an immaturity to that. Like it's not, it doesn't actually feel like it's grounded in the experience of the world itself, and it's lived through the things that it talks about. The things that it talks about are superficial, and it's all style and no substance beyond that. And
it feels
I'm not knocking the style. Sorry,
I quite like his visual style. I quite like it.
Exactly. There's certainly there's a technical achievement in the stuff that he executes that I can't fault, and like that. And there's even there's a gaudy sort of quality to the visual sometimes that it's when I saw 300 in the cinema at the first time, it was that ugly, like to the point that it became beautiful in a way. Like it stood out that much in it, like how false it looked.
It was quite different. It was new.
It was new. It was a new experience. Yeah, I was like watching it thinking like, this is almost like watching claymation or something. Like it was, I can understand the effort that's gone to stitching all these elements together. And even though they look incredibly false, there's a charm to them. There's a quality to them that I appreciate, that's new, and I've never really seen it before, and it stood out. But then there's a fine line between that becoming tacky, and I think as he carries on, like some of his visual style is a bit tacky, and trying to, something like Sucker Punch to me is just like a moody teenager's wet dream of a film
100%.
Like this.
That's exactly what it is. It's like a horny teenager who's in his room and just discovered, like, dude, Superman is Moses, man. This is so rad. Let's have him punch Darkseid in slow motion because it'd be so cool. That's so epic, bro. That's exactly how I imagine him to be. And then he's trying to force emotional depth, but just doesn't know how to do it. And I don't know. That's just, I find I've been reading a lot of reviews online, and I am really, really trying to be positive about the film, but I can't because it wasn't good, and I feel bad knocking it because I know what he went through to get this film out there. So I like it in that sense, and I like that it's better than I like that he'll leave a better legacy with these films now, in the public eye. Yeah. But they're just not for me. And I don't think, to me, that it's objectively good. But I'm glad for him, which is, I guess, the bottom line, But as a fan of comics, as a fan of superhero films, it's bitterly disappointing to me.
Okay.
But I was talking to a mutual friend of ours as well, and it summed it up perfectly. And he just said it was completely tone deaf. Like it's the tone of the film does not, I don't think he was able to translate what he took, clearly because he took a lot of inspiration from works like Jack Kirby's Fourth World from the 70s and you know, Jeff Johns' Dark Side War or like Grant Morrison's Final Crisis. There's definitely stuff in there and very visual, cool visuals, but substance zero to me. You know, I don't know. But yeah, horny teenager who thinks Superman looks so cool in slow motion all the time, like 24/7. Yeah, nah, man, that's not what I'm about. Yeah. So that was disappointing.
Maybe not on my watch list. To be honest with you, I've not even seen the original. I think I lasted maybe 4 minutes into the original before I was like, nah, I'm not watching this. I'll turn this off. And I probably watched about 10 minutes of what did you mention before?
Batman versus
Superman. And again, it was like, no, I'm just going to be angry when I keep watching. I'm going to turn this off. So I just didn't bother, and I've never got round to seeing either of them. So
another thing about this film that I thought was baffling was that it's filmed obviously in IMAX, but presented in a like 4:3 aspect ratio.
Okay.
So you've got black bars at the side of your kind of widescreen on your TV at home, you know. So I kind of looked it up. I was like, there's something wrong with my Now TV subscription. Like, what's going on here? But no, apparently he filmed it like on IMAX cameras, knowing that it was going to be released on like home streaming, but still left it like that because he said, you know, something like capturing all the image, which I appreciate, but he gave some stupid metaphorical symbolism reason for it. Like, it visually represents Superman being accepting who he is and standing up vertically. And I'm like, dude, no. Like, he said something about like vertical. He's just vertical as opposed to horizontal. And I'm like, what are you saying? What are you saying?
So what it's for? So
it's
the format was shot because IMAX format is like super wide, isn't it? Like it's
it's super tall and super wide, but it's made for cinema screens. So like if you watch it on a cinema screen, you won't have the black bars on your TV.
But he's cropped that ratio to a square 4:3 or nearly square sort of traditional 4:3.
Full on square. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Very bizarre to watch on your home TV.
Okay.
100%. But and then that was just a very minor thing about the film as well. It was annoying watching such a big epic 4-hour movie on a square. Like I might as well have just watched it on an old box TV from the 90s, you know. But
see, I'm actually I don't mind the 4:3 format. I don't mind what format you kind of choose for something. And I think I watched a few years back, and somebody was reusing that format again, and it worked for the film. I was like, oh, I'm glad filmmakers are starting to use this format. American Honey, I remember watching that, and that's shot in 4:3. I remember watching that and thinking, oh, I'm glad some filmmakers are starting to bring that as an aspect ratio back, just because. It just adds to different forms of composition with the cinematography a little bit than you would get on like a 16:9 or whatever sort of widescreen format. But to like shoot on IMAX where the format itself, the idea is to just like gain that maximum wide field of view, but then to only like use a portion of the image shot at a super high resolution. I don't really see the benefit. That you wouldn't just shoot. I don't know.
I can understand a stylistic choice like that if it suits the narrative or if it actually does feel like, okay, well, there's a point to this. Like most recently, like just in the last few weeks, WandaVision doing its 1950s episodes used that aspect ratio, and then when we came outside of like Wanda's created reality, we came back to like the real world, like the outside world outside of her little hub, and you can see they slowly kind of revealed the change in aspect ratio to widescreen again, because now it visually is representing you exiting that reality, which is cool, and I understand that as a stylistic choice, and it works. But for me, I didn't see any justification just because, I can see the clouds in this picture better now. Great. Like, I don't care, you know? So, I don't know. That was the Snyder Cut. I really hope I wasn't too mean to Zack, but Warner Brothers, like, someone get in there and please tell him to stop using the slow motion button. And I know this film could set a precedent, you know, and I know people are demanding, like, studio interference in movies, studio interference, which I know to a point is bad. But in the same way that a novelist needs an editor, I think, you know, directors need someone in the room just to tell them, like, I just don't think this is working now, Zack, you know? Mm-hmm. To a point. And I think him with just complete free reign and, like, shackles completely off, he was allowed to totally indulge in all of the bad habits he has as a filmmaker. So yeah, I don't know. It gave, like, for kind of a bad movie, it gave me a lot to think about and a lot to talk about. So there is that.
It's filled up this episode nicely.
Yeah, it has filled up this episode nicely. I've never talked so much about a movie I didn't like in my life. So that was my experience with the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Dino, how do you have anything else to take us maybe on a bit of a more positive note to finish up here?
I don't know about positive. I've got my issues with this next thing a little bit, but not.
Sure, look, let's keep it all. Let's keep it all in a negative light.
Not too mean about it.
Let's rip everything to shreds.
Fair enough. I got around to the only other thing I really checked out recently enough was I came across quite a positive review of the second season of a show called Servant, and I'd not seen the original series, the first season. So I decided to go back and get hold of those and check them out. I think it was on Apple TV. It was aired for that. It's created by Tony Bascalop, I think the guy's name is. He's the showrunner, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
And he directs a few episodes as well, so he kind of does the job. Typical, like they tend to do. There's a bit of a trend. I guess Boardwalk Empire did that similar thing with Scorsese. You come in, you get a director to kind of like, and the Fincher's done that before and stuff like, you know, they get a big name director.
Cards with
exactly, kind of come in, direct the pilot, set the tone, and then everybody sort of follows suit afterwards. So it's one of those. Who's in it? You got the girl it stars Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under.
Oh yeah,
red-haired actress. And you've got Toby Kebbell, who I've always liked from Dead Man's Shoes. Yeah, and he's been in a few Hollywood movies, hasn't he, over the years? He did quite well. Yep. Going over to America. And you have Rupert Grint, who he's carrying a bit more weight these days. And
he does look a bit tubby these days, yeah.
He does, but it works for this because he reminded me a little bit of Orson Welles at times in this. There's something about him. I've got that Orson Wellesy kind of vibe going on with him at times.
I wouldn't have expected that from Ron Weasley now, but okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't. And the other star is Nell Tiger-Free, who some people might remember as Marcella Baratheon from Game of Thrones.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. She's in that. The general gist of the show is it's about a couple who lost their baby very early on, and they have been advised to use a therapy doll to deal with the trauma of the child's death. So you have a nanny, Nell Tiger-Free, her character. She plays a nanny who shows up at the home of the couple, and she has to nurse the doll in order to kind of keep this illusion going with the mother to prevent her from like descending further and further into her mental breakdown about the trauma and things getting worse there. And then this being something that M. Night Shyamalan decided to back, you have certain twists and turns and mysterious things that happen from that point on. They kind of go a certain way. But yeah, it's a fun enough show to watch. Like, it's beautifully shot. It's really nicely put together. Got to say that for it. The cinematography is excellent. And their performances are quite fun. They're quite heightened performances. Lauren Ambrose in particular, very sort of like wide-eyed, in your face, kind of like bordering on like the hammy, but like not treading a very fine line. Sort of
almost like Al Pacino.
Yeah. Sort of those sort of, but you know, her character's quite a manic sort of like, you know, highly strung character, so it works quite well. Her character, she's a journalist, an ex-newscaster who now sort of like, due to the effects of the pregnancy and stuff, she's sort of stay at home. And her husband is Toby Kebbell's character, and he plays, I think he's described as like a bon vivant. And I thought, I recognise that term. I've heard that term before, but I wasn't 100% what it was. Had to Google it afterwards. But a bon vivant is somebody who is an expert in sort of food and wine culture. So he's pretty much like a stay-at-home chef. Okay. And he kind of creates new dishes for new restaurants and stuff at home. And the TV show seems to be like really preoccupied with food. You become incredibly hungry watching this show because there's always like something delicious being made by his character in every single scene. Yeah. And they concentrate quite a lot with the editing and the cinematography as well on the creation of the food. It seems to be weirdly like a big part of the show that's never really explained. It's just part of the theme somehow.
Everyone loves food. Let's just film the food.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's some of the best food I've seen depicted. It's some of the best examples of food I've probably since what's his name?
Jon Favreau's Chef.
Jon Favreau's Chef. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Probably apart from that, one of the best depictions on screen I've seen of a chef's life and food really put on screen in a way. But and Rupert Grint's like the wife's brother, and he's kind of like this sort of like quite rude sort of alcoholic, kind of like brash sort of figure that comes in, and he has a field day in that performance. He's really fun to watch. Like I say, there is that Orson Welles-y kind of vibe. He's like this sort of like bourgeois kind of like character who just stumbles in, and he's always got a glass of wine in his hand or something, and he's just like always mouthing off about something, and he's quite grumpy. But it's quite fun watching him play that. You just wouldn't cast him as that in a million years, but he does a really good job of it. So he's quite fun to watch. But it does that thing which I guess some later M. Night Shyamalan stuff is going off, of like setting you up with a really great mysterious premise and then not necessarily paying it off as it goes along. Like it's building to something. And even 2 seasons in, I'm kind of getting to this stage where like certain things are being revealed about the characters and certain mysteries unraveled. And I'm like, I really want to know what's going on here. And you're kind of hinting at something really interesting, but then it never quite explains itself enough that you get to know what that is. And you just think like, how many seasons of this and I'm going to have to go through before you start answering some of those questions? Sort of to the point where it's become a bit frustrating and silly at this stage, that by the time I got to the end of the second season, a lot of those things that I liked were keeping me watching, like the look of the show and like some of those performances and stuff were keeping me going. But like it's got to a point now where like I am getting a bit frustrated with it as well, and debating whether I keep on watching like whenever a third season comes out. But I don't know. Yeah, that's the only other thing I've been checking out recently enough.
There was only one other thing I watched this week, but I might save it for next week when I catch the next episode. I watched just the first episode of Falcon Winter Soldier on Disney Plus and really enjoyed it. But I'll save it for next week. I don't want to overload on the superhero talk. But,
good stuff.
I think we were very unlucky with the things that we watched this week, right?
It seems to be, it seems to be the case. Yeah,
hopefully we can watch or read something good.
Soulmates was good. But I didn't watch that. Technically, that was a cheat because I didn't watch that this week. That was like a backup from a few weeks back.
You sneaky man. Yeah. But look, next maybe next week we'll have better luck with whatever we're consuming.
Yeah, hopefully. I started off again. We'll leave it for a proper conversation. But your selection for me last week, Outcast.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I've started dipping into that, and it's an enjoyable read so far.
I'm also back into the second season of *Halt and Catch Fire* from January. I'm on episode 5 now and enjoying the second season far more than the first one, which is cool. And I think those 2 female leads are the best thing in the show. They're the hook of my interest in the show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the rest of them now.
Good to hear. That it's good that you feel that, because as the seasons play out, they will definitely become more of a focus as far as the show's concerned as well.
Cool. Very cool. Shall we leave it at that for this week then, Dino?
I think we should. Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for listening. And guess our usual reminders of if you are enjoying the show, then please show your support with a nice review or nice feedback online.
Follow on Spotify, on Red Circle, on the Apple Tunes.
Mm-hmm. Or that link in our description, that little link that allows you to also, if you're feeling extra generous, donate. But yeah. Thanks
very much week. And subscribe to fucking Amazon Prime.
Yeah, if you want to. If you're listening to Amazon, give us that sponsorship deal.
Yep. Making the big bucks. All right, people. See you next week.
Bye-bye.